Good morning, class. Can you all hear me? And is my screen visible? No. Oh, thank you, guys. Okay. So, for today's class, we will continue on our initial discussion last week with lesson 6 array. And today we will be talking about two-dimensional arrays, multi-dimensional arrays, and I think we should be able to round up this topic on Thursday, this specific lesson on Thursday. And I'm expecting, I think, what do we have for this week? So you have your lesson 6 Zybox activities due for Friday, the 3rd of April. Like I do say, you don't have to wait until Thursday when we conclude this topic before you start your assignment. You don't have to wait until Thursday to start your Zybox of activities. You can actually start as soon as the lesson kicks off, because the Zybox is actually not just for the assignment alone. You're also learning new concepts um, using your participation activity or your challenge activity. And I will also emphasize the optional labs. They are optional. They are not graded. However, you can always practice more of this concept using the optional labs. And if you have any question, let me know. So I think from the 6.1, we're clear, 6.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. We will talk about multi-arrays and we will talk about two-dimensional. I think we're left with talking about two-dimensional arrays and also the enhanced loop, using enhanced for loops in our array. So let's see what we can cover today. And we will round up the topic on Thursday with enhanced for loop, and we will also see if we can check one of these lab activities on Thursday, right? So, any question before we proceed in today's class? Don't wait until the end of Thursday to start your Zybox. I will emphasize that. Any question? Any question at all? Hmm? Thumbs up if there is no question, and we are ready to. Okay, thank you. So for today's, we will be starting with we will be, we are not starting, we are just advancing, we are building up on the concept from the last week class. And today we will be talking about two-dimensional arrays. From the word two-dimensional arrays, what do you think? What do you understand by two-dimensional arrays? You can use the charts. It's my charts. Yes. Yeah, you can use the chat. You can unmute yourself. Like just the first time you're hearing two-dimensional array, what do you think? What comes to your mind? I need some participation, guys. I can't see any video on. So I need to know you guys are with me and you're listening and tables. Thank you very much, Ivante. So, like Evanta said, when we're talking about two-dimensional arrays, what comes to our mind is tables. And when we're talking about tables, what do we think of? We're thinking of rows and columns, thinking of specific rows, number of rows, and specific number of columns. And we're saying we are storing our data, we are storing our values in forms of table. Unlike the one-dimensional arrays, when we are just storing the list, they're just writing a list of elements, a list of value, a list of It could be number, it could be integer, strings, it could be character data type. But what we're saying here is that we are listing them. It's just a list. There is not a specific structure like we have in the rows and in columns. So when we are talking about two-dimensional arrays, we are talking about tables, we're talking about rows, we are talking about columns. And for one-dimensional array, we are just saving in a specific list, in an order. So we are saving a group of integer in a specific order, in an order. But when we're talking about two-dimensional arrays, we are talking about going as columns and also as rows. So we're saving in rows and columns. And it's not just one way. So we're saving in two ways, and that's from the word two dimensions. We're saving in vertical and in horizontal way, kind of. So it's always a two-dimensional way of storing, of saving our data in memory. Any question? I think we're good. So, what does two-dimensional means? Two-dimensional arrays means. It's just like we are saving, we are storing an array that contains other array, Two-dimensional is an array that contains other arrays. So it could be a 3x4, a 2x2 kind of approach. So we are storing an array containing other arrays. It's just like we have for our nested loops in our previous lesson. In lesson 5, we're talking about loops, and we're talking about nested loops, loops inside loops, loop within loops. And it's similar for what we have in arrays. So we are having array within an array. So we can have arrays within a specific array. So for two-dimensional array, when we're declaring a two-dimensional array, we have to specify, because we already said we're talking about columns, rows and columns. So we have to declare a two-dimensional array by specifying the size of each dimension. So the column, the rows, here we can say int. What does int mean? Int, that's the data type of our array. Don't forget, it's just the same thing we have for the one dimensional unit dimensional array. It's just the same thing. So we have what? The data type of the array. Don't forget our square brackets. Our square bracket is very important here because it tells the compiler, hey, wait, this is not just a typical primitive data type we're saving here. We are not just saving an integer. We are not storing an integer in memory here. We are storing what? An array. And seeing two square bracket tells the compiler, hey, then when again you need other information I need to inform you, is that we are not just storing, we're not just allocating a memory space for a list for just one dimensional, but here it's in two dimensions. So we're already declaring in two dimensions. So we are saving, we're storing, we're allocating space for these variables calls in memory, and we're telling our compiler. So this two square bracket tells the compiler, hey, this is a two-dimensional array. This is a two-dimensional array. So it follows by what? By the array name, which is just like our variable name. What is the name? Is a user-defined name, whatever name you want to give your array. And we're saying equals to, don't forget, the new. New is a reserved word. And this is where we're creating the array object here. And we're saying the data type. So this is the data type of the array. They have to be of the same data type. The data type of the array and the data type of the value. I emphasized this last week, and it's the same thing for the two-dimensional array. You cannot have declaring an integer for the data type of the array and the values are in floating points. No. the values has to be what? The same data type with the array. So we're saying the values here will also, the values will be populating to this array will also be an integer data type. And the first square bracket indicates the rows. So this is saying allocate 12, 12. We're having 12 values for the rows. And for the columns, we are having 50 values. We will be having 50, up to 50 values. Because here, why are we declaring this way? We are declaring this way because we do not know. We are not sure. We are not aware of the values in this array. We don't know. But if we are aware of the values within this array, we will see the other options, the other way we can declare and initialize our array almost immediately. But here, we are not declaring and initializing in a single line because we are unsure. We don't know. We don't know. We don't know these values. But we are sure of the size. So this indicates the size of the array. We know, the size should be 12, 12 rows and 50 columns, but we don't know the exact values in these 12 rows and the exact values within the 50 columns. So this is how we declare our two-dimensional arrays. And it's just the same thing we did for the one-dimensional array. I will access that. How do we access the variable, the values rather, the values within our array? We have to access using the index. The index, that's the location of that value on the array table. So because now we're working with tables, rows and columns. So what is the location? So we have to say this specific value we are looking for is in specific index of the row 3. That's the index 3 on the row, and what? Index 6 on the column. That is our access. That is our reference, that specific value location. So we're referencing the value using the location, just the same thing we did for the one-dimensional unidimensional array. Any question on this? Thumbs up if you understand declaration of it and how we access using the first option. Like I said, we have two ways to do this. This is the first way to declare our unidirectional array say unit, not unit. Yeah, it's two-dimensional. This is how we declare our two-dimensional arrays using our rows in terms of the size of the rows here and the size of the column as well. So we're using the size. This is here is the size of the rows. Our rows is 12. That's the size. We don't know the exact values within these rows, but we know we have 12 rows and we have 50. So this is the 50 columns. 50 columns. And this here is talking about the location of the values. Now we have populated our values. We have populated the values included in our array, but we want to access one specific, or we want to access we just want to access the specific value, a specific value. So what do? We use the index, just the same thing we did in the unidirectional array. We use the index, but now we have to index because we have to check the rows on what specific row, which location of the row is this variable, in which location of the columns. The first one is always the row, and the second is the column of the array. Any question? Thumbs up if there's no question, and any thumbs up. There's no question. We're clear. We're good. We're on the same page. Thank you. So let me erase this. You can see it. So this is just giving more illustration of it. So, for instance, in our unidirection, where we just have one, it's just a list. So all we have to do is a specific index of that variable, of that value rather. So at index 0, that's the first value on our array list. But in the column, it's different. Because in the two-dimensional array, it's different because we have rows first, and we also have the column. So this is the rows here, and this is the what? The column. So we have rows and we have column. So the first value, and this is the first value, 692,134. That's the first value on our array. And what is this telling us? It is telling us that this is actually in what? Row index 0, column index 0. So this is like, I'm saying this is in row index 0. So the index is 0, and also the column here, the index is 0. So this specific variables value 655615 is actually at what row? Can anybody, at what row index? Index of what row and index of what column? Anybody willing to share? You can just put that in chat. Just let me know. Is it 0, 1? Is it 1, 2? Is it 2, 3? Anybody willing to share? The second value on this array table is at what index if we want to access this value? What index? Thank you. So is at index 0. That's the row. The row is still 0. Everything here, the row is 0. But the index of the column is now 1. So, I'm not drawing this well. So the index is 1. So it's always like this. I still and this is for this. So at index 0 for the row, index 0 for the column. This is the value that is saved in this specific index, that is stored in this specific index. At index 0 for column and index 1, index 0 for row and index 1 for column. This is the value here. At index 0 for the row and index 2 for the column. This is what we have. This is the value stored in this index. At index 0 for the row and index 3 for the column. This is what we have. This is the value we have. And at index 1 for the row and index 0 for the column. This is what we have. And this is how it works. At index 1 for the row, index 1 for the column, we have the S. So it's always like that. It's in 2 dimensions. The vertical and the horizontal dimension. And exactly what we mean by our tables. And any question on this? I will go on this. Are we clear? Okay. So before we move to this, thank you. Before we move to this, just the same thing we have explained, but I want us to write. So we can also access. So this is saying we can also access our 2-dimensional array using the for loop, just like we did in our 1-dimensional array. However, what kind of for loop are we going to use? Because we have the rows and the column, then we're talking about the nested for loops. So we're talking about loop within a loop. um, to access values in what in our two-dimensional arrays, and we will see that because we have an example to a code to write, and we will see that in it. Yes. So this is another way we can declare our two-dimensional array. This is another way we can declare. And in this approach, what are we doing with this approach? We are declaring and we are initializing our array at the same point. We use this specific approach when we are aware, when we know the values to be populated in our arrays. This is not when we are asking the users to generate a specific value. Here we are sure we know the values we want to put into our array. So we declare, here we're declaring it's an integer array. There's the two square bracket is telling our compiler it's a two-dimensional array, and the name of the array, that's the variable name. The same thing with the variable, that's the name of the array. And don't forget, last week when we introduced this topic, we said there are three important symbols. When we are working, when we are declaring, when we are initializing our array. And the curly brace, what does the curly brace tell us? It tells us that specific line of code belongs to this block of code. And when we have more than one line, it's always good, we use the curly brace because it helps us to structure, to organize for clarity purpose, readability purpose. You'll be able to say, oh, this specific lines of code belongs to this block of code. And here, our curly brace, and the first is the first one, that is the first value in the first array. This is the second values. These are the values in the second array. These are the values in the third array. And these are the values in the fourth array. If we want to, I just want you to know, if I want to declare this as using the first approach, where I'm not sure of the values within each of this array, what do you think? What will be the number of rows? What will be the size of the rows, and what will be the size of the column? So we're saying, let me take my pencil again and draw. So these are the rows. And these are the columns, right? So if I have to declare this, I have to declare this as 1, 2, 3. This is 4. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this is what? 4. So I have my color brace, my square brace, right? And I have another square brace, and this is what? 10. Are we clear? Do you understand this? Thumbs up if you understood what I just did. So, assuming we are not sure, we don't know, we are not aware of the values to be populated in this array, what should we use? We have to use the size, and this is telling me the number of the rows and the numbers of the columns. And the number of the rows here is 1, 2, 3, 4. And the numbers of the columns is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 columns. But we can use this approach here, separating the values with commas and imputing each values of a specific array in a different color brace, in a separate color brace. Is when I'm aware, I know the values in each of these arrays. I know what to populate. So I can just use this approach, which is just me doing what? Initializing my array at the point of declaration. Okay, pick my mouse again. So let's write some code. Do we have our environment open? So This is what I want us to do. This is what I want us to do. And you will do this on your own. Let's see how many of us understand, how many of you guys understand this concept. So this is on your Canvas page. So you go to your, just the same thing we did last week on the lesson 6 lecture notes and in class activities. Click on it, and I want you to go to the challenge, the chat challenge. So program challenge 6. When we're working with multidimensional arrays. Program challenge 6. When we are working with multidimensional arrays, and yes, exactly. So I have it open, so I'm just gonna go to that page straight up. And what I want us to do is I want you to think through this challenge activities. What are we to do? And I will want you to work in groups. So I'm gonna create like a breakout rooms for you to talk about it as a group, and think through how to solve this problem. Think through how to solve it. And I want you guys to write a code to solve it in class. I will be here if you have other question, and Thursday we will go through maybe before the end of the class. Let's see how we still have some time. So that's it. So what are we to do here? According to the Mayo Clinic, the average American walks 3,000 to 4,000 steps a day. It's a good idea to find how many steps a day you walk. The goal should be to walk at least 10,000 steps a day. So this is, this is checking how many steps, different walkers takes per day. And so to be specific on the problem we want to solve here, Mary and Jasmine are held accountable partners. They are challenging each other to increase the number of steps per day. So what are we to do here? What's the problem here? Write a Java program that will calculate the total number of steps for each worker, that is for two. So we're talking about Mary and Jasmine. So we want to calculate what? The total number of steps for each worker and print the total number of steps for each worker. So what are we talking about here? 2 dimensions. In rows, we have 2 workers. We have what? Mary, and we have Jasmine. Mary taking the index 0. That is the first, that is the what? The first value. And Jasmine taking index 1 on the row basis. And when we talk about the column, so we're saying we want to know the total number of steps. And 0 is like probably Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we want to say how many rows is Mary taking? Mary takes on Monday, Mary took 2,758 steps. And Jasmine took 11,456 steps. On Tuesday, on Wednesday, on Thursday, and Friday, on Saturday, and Sunday. So now we want to calculate the total number of steps of each workers. So that's the weekly, right? The weekly. So how many steps did Mary take in a week? How many steps did Jasmine take in that specific week? So I want you guys, we have the code here, but the purpose is for you to think as a group how to solve this problem. I understand this is a 2-dimensional array. So how do you think? How do you solve the problem? First, we have to understand the purpose. The purpose is to calculate the total steps of each worker per week. So we're calculating Monday plus Tuesday plus Wednesday plus Thursday plus Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for Mary and for Jasmine. So what do we need to do? We want to calculate the total steps and we want to also print. So we are not just calculating it, we also want to print the total steps of each of the workers per week. So what do we need? What are the variables that we need? What are the different variables that we need? Of course, don't forget our rows, our columns, we have to declare what? Two arrays. We're working with two arrays here. One list on the row side and another list on the column side. So this is what a 2 by 7. So we're saying this is a 2 in terms of the row, and the size is 2 because it's just taking account of Mary and Jasmine. And in terms of the column, it's 7. That is Monday until Sunday. That is 7 in terms of the size of the column. So let's do this. I'm gonna divide you guys into um, breakout rooms. So I'm just going to assign automatically, and we have 6, so that will be 3. So 2 on each group, and let's see. Okay, open. So join your group, your room, and discuss with your teammates on how you think. Just think through. You have the solution there, but what I want you to do is actually to think through about the solution. Think through about it, and let me know if you have any question. Yeah, we still we're waiting for a few more people to join. Mm. So, what did you guys discuss? Can you share some of the interesting conversation on how to approach the problem? Anyone willing to share? What did you notice? What did you notice? Anybody willing to share? I believe you guys had some amazing insights discussing how to solve this problem in pairs. Someone willing to go? Yeah. You can use the chat. You can unmute yourself. There's actually no wrong or right. There's no wrong answers, to be honest. We are all learning. So, okay, I want us to finish early today. So let's stress, like, we noticed there are multiple ways to solve the problem. Exactly, Lake. Exactly. There are multiple ways we can solve the problem. But for the purpose of this class demonstration, we will be using the two-dimensional arrays as we have started this topic today. So can you all see my screen? Let's trace the code. You have the code in the, you have the code in the document. So you have it. You can just write it and, and trace it out. So what is the purpose? What is the purpose? The purpose was to calculate the total number of steps for each workers per week. We were given the, yeah, we were given the values. We were given the values. So we have the values for each of the arrays. So with this approach, what should we do? Since we have the values of each of the arrays, we do not have to declare using the size of the array, the other way. Like, so what did we do? We know this is what? This this size is not changing. This size is not changing. Don't forget our constant variable. So this size is not changing. We're sure of that. So we do what? We just declare the size as what? As a constant. And we're saying this is they are integer data type. It's an integer data type. So that's this and this is the variable name. For constant, it has to be in uppercase. All has to be in uppercase when we're declaring a constant. Don't forget, we have that in our lesson too. You can go back to review that if you missed the classes. It's always video. And for the rows, we have two, just Mary and Jasmine. So we have two values. And for the columns, we have 7 from Monday until Sunday. And what are we to do next? We had to declare the array, the rows array, and the name is worker. And we already have the values, Mary and Jasmine. That's the names. And don't forget our double columns when we're declaring a string data type. If it's a character data type, is a single quotes. But if you're working with string data type, it's what? It's a double quote. The values are always in double quotes. And the next area we have to declare is the steps. I will come back to this. This is where our total steps, the array to accommodate the total steps, the array to calculate both the rows and the columns for the total steps of each workers. And here we are declaring and initializing the array to store the steps. So this one is storing what? The names of the workers. This is storing the steps. And we have these values. Don't forget, we have just 1 minute. We have these values here. These are the values for the different day, for the different days, for the number of walks for the different days. So I'm going back to my code, and I'm saying here that these are the values. All you have to do is just to copy and paste it. And because we are declaring it's a 2-dimension, what do we have to do? This is saying the numbers of the rows. This here is the numbers of the rows, and here is the numbers of the column. And this is 1, 2 rows, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns. Okay, are we good until this step? Thumbs up if we are good until declaring. Here we have declared. Okay. So what are we to do now? We want to calculate. And to calculate the total steps, what do we need? And we need to what? To use the loops. And here, because we are talking about the rows and columns, we are working with nested loops. And don't forget, we already said the for loop is mostly used when we are sure we know the number of iteration. We're sure this is going to go 2 times and this is going to go 7 times. And we're saying our R, which we could also name, this is a user defined. And we're saying it's 0. And R is what? Is less than. It has to be less than the number of workers. The number of workers is 2. Then R plus plus. Don't forget how the syntax for loops. And what did we do here? We used the accumulator variable, just the same thing we did last week for the even number to calculate the total. We use the accumulator variable here. And here we also said our C, we're declaring the days. Here is a worker. And here is the days, which we have here. And we're saying when C is less than, then what should happen? And this is what we're telling the compiler to do. Then we want you that the total steps should be equals. Here we have used the argument operator. We're saying the total step equals to the what? The total steps plus the steps tracker, which is what? The number, the number of steps of the different workers per day. Are we good until this? This is where we are adding for each workers the total number of steps per day, and gives us the total number of steps in a week. Any question until this point? We are tracing. We have the code already. All we're doing is to trace and understand how this problem has been solved. So we need to print. We need to print the total steps for each of the workers. And how do we do that? So we're also using the follow to do the printing. And we're saying for I equals to 0. And now we have gotten the total steps. We don't want to write for each. So we want to do the total steps together for each of the workers. And we're saying the length here. This is the length. Don't forget our length of our properties. This is our properties, which we use in our last week code as well. And we modify. This is to modify, to update, so we don't have an infinite loop. And we're telling the compiler that it should print. Great job. This is just number of string. And we concatenate this with the number of walks. This is showing the number of worker, the name of the worker. And this is showing the steps per week of this worker. So this is, let's run it and see what we have so we can explain better. So what have we done here? What we've done here is that great job, Mary, the number of the worker, the number, the name of the worker rather. You have worked, and this is the total, adding from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That is the total number of steps, which we have calculated here. The total number of steps, and using our concatenation operator, this is our addition. It can also be used to concatenate variables together, to join variables together. The steps per week, this is just to write, we're printing out. But the two important function here is the name of the worker as well as the total steps, adding all the steps from Monday until Sunday for each workers, and we print it out. So you have the code. We've only traced the code together in class. If you have any question, let me know. Any question? Thumbs up if you understand what we just did here. Thumbs up if you understand this. Do you want us to? Okay, legs, thank you. Only legs. Only leg understand this. Yes, okay. Any question? Okay, if no question, I think we can call it a day. You already have this code, so I will employ you to please go through the code and let me know if you have any question in the next class. If no question, we can end today's class. Please do have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you guys on sorry, a wonderful week ahead, and I will see you on Thursday.